The funeral. Mud. Deep footprints led the way, blurred and silent. The dark crowd walked in front of me. Weakened by my black, thick brows, cold raindrops trickled down into the deep hollows of my eye sockets, providing me with tears I didn't shed, sinking down bony, scratchy cheeks. Their path ended at parched, craggy lips. My lifeless tongue greedily licked the wetness. How long have I been missing here? Years. I ran away from the love of this family back then. Fear drove me away. The cruel song of the brass band that had accompanied us from the church through the whole village still sounded and fell silent in front of the cemetery. I remembered how, as a child, I desperately looked for a place to hide and covered my ears as soon as this cursed hymn of the dead flowed like a poisonous gas through all the cracks in the village. Scattered clumps of fallen, dried pine and cypress cones lined the wet, musty-looking meadow, where weathered gravestones and crosses protruded from the ground. Stone shelves, where dead bodies were kept like shoes, were piled up on both sides of the path. As the procession came to a halt, the coffin was lowered into the ground, and the priest preached. I watched as a crow perched on the crown of one of the countless cypress trees and, spreading its wings, gave a cry that expressed all the pain, the grief, the unspoken suffering of the family, followed by boisterous wailing and moaning from the mourners. A gust of wind whipped the crow from its dubious throne, and it disappeared behind the dense, low-lying grey clouds. The sweet tart scent of the reddish cypresses was everywhere. The rain became heavier. The people hurried to say their last wishes as they threw roses on the coffin, which slapped roughly against the wet stone resting place. 2 of the 4 pallbearers hastily poured the muddy earth into the hole. It felt as if they were hurling food in front of the pigs. With my arms outstretched and my head tilted slightly to one side, I walked towards the eldest son of the deceased, who had just dropped his rose for a blessing. We embraced. We broke away. He smiled with moist eyes. Now it's my turn. He put his arm around my shoulder, and we walked away from the grave onto the pebbled path that led to the exit. Where have you been for so long? Have you forgotten your home? I fell silent and undid the top button of my jacket. The sky cleared up a little. Now we were standing in the middle of a circle of relatives. The sun invited everyone to the villa of the deceased. No sooner had the invitation been extended than a subdued laughter broke out, and the lamentations suddenly turned into jeering and grunting. Like a wedding party, they happily jumped into their expensive vehicles and sped off. I walked the short, dusty path back to the villa. The sun had almost swallowed up the shadows. I was the last to arrive and walked through the huge, flower-lined front garden, entered the building and made my way through a marble vestibule from which the distant familiar sound of childish footsteps and excited children's cries from the past reached me. I had spent a large part of my childhood here. I climbed a few steps into the solemnly decorated dining room. I watched as the serious men sat down and the women talked to each other. There were 5 huge tables with a waiter for each of the 5 families. It smelled of roasts, cigars, and the sweet perfume of the ladies. Pietro, the firstborn of the 5, sat down in the place of the deceased, and with a raised glass he said solemnly, "At last everyone is here again. As always, someone has to die first. Let's hope the next one gets it quickly." He stared at a portrait of his father hanging on the wall opposite him and at the end of the room, drank his wine and sat down. No one said anything. I noticed the fleeting glances exchanged between those gathered. The wine was now flowing freely and the tables seemed to be breaking under its weight. As the crowd danced to the tarantella, Pietro beckoned me over. He pulled up a chair, wiped it clean with his hand, and instructed me to take a seat. Everyone's attention was focused on the dance floor. There were children jumping, girls and boys giggling. There were tough men with beards strutting in their eternal black suits, vain women vying for attention. They too were constantly dressed in black. "Tommaso, vieni, sit down. How nice that you have found your way home. How was the journey?" I wanted to answer, but he shook his head and continued. "My father loved you. You were his favorite among his nephews." I nodded and smiled sadly. He held my chin in his hand and looked deep into my eyes. There was something crazy about him. "Tommaso, you're not like us down here. You write stories, but we live them. And Papa, how he loved your stories, more than life. Life only made him sad, Tommaso, but your stories." "Thank you, Pietro. I'm glad. But it's been a long time. I feel empty now," I replied, waving my hand. Pietro had azure blue, sparkling eyes. According to his father Emilio, this sparkle, which left a melancholy mark on Pietro throughout his life, was due to the tears of Theseus, who lost his father Aegeus due to a terrible misunderstanding, and whose tears for his deceased father were carried from the Aegean to the Ionian Sea on the Calabrian coast, right up to the little boy's eyes when he dived into the sea for the first time. His face was brown, leathery, and deep furrows ran across his cheeks. "Pietro, if there's anything I can do—" Pietro interrupted me. "You? What are you supposed to do? You who live alone in your little room in the north and haven't even started a family." He patted my cheek. "Forgive me, kid, but I don't think I need anything from you. Take a look around. I have everything." He pointed to the huge hall that now belonged to him, just like everything that had previously been in his father's possession. "No, not you, but we. We want to do something for you." "We? Who do you mean by we?" I asked hesitantly. "Your uncle, who is toasting his death with the worms underground, and me." Pietro leaned towards me. "After your parents died, my father loved you like a son, and I loved you like a little brother. Dad knew that your capital was your head." Pietro tapped me on the forehead. That's where you spent your life. Dad suffered a lot when you left. But how proud he was when he read about your books in the newspaper. When your career came to an end, Dad felt worse and worse. Before he died, he told me to help you succeed again. Pietro smiled. We want to inspire you to serve up something for the great observer to look at. At a signal from Pietro, the 5 waiters came to him. They surrounded us, and he gave them to understand that the time had come. Each garçon quickly went to the head of his table and whispered something in his ear, whereupon they went down to the basement into a secluded chamber. The room had no windows. The walls were hung with tapestries. A strange scent of incense emanated from 2 bronze bowls hanging from the ceiling. 2 stuffed eagles on pedestals flanked the armchair on which Pietro, who sent me to a unlit corner, sat in front of a table in the middle of the room. The men took their seats at a horseshoe-shaped table. Distinguished guests, it is time for me to thank you on behalf of my father. Pietro looked earnestly from his elevated position at the astonished faces of the grim-faced men. A gift from Papa and me, each according to his loyalty. As he finished this sentence, the waiters approached the 5 from behind, and before I realized what was happening, the heads of the guests slumped forward, lifelessly. I hadn't heard anything, but I saw blood pouring out of them, and Pietro smiling and holding out his goblet to me. I froze. Tommaso, you have to create the world for yourself, otherwise it will create you. He straightened his tie. And you, Tommaso, you finally have a story again, a new experience. That's all it is. That's all you need. For you, for people like you, it's nothing but an experience. You can't really suffer. You can't really love. Everything is as it comes and goes. That's all it means. I didn't dare leave my dark corner. Pietro continued. Tomorrow you will thank God for it. You will process it and make money from it. Who the 5 of them were, who cares? At least not you. You are and will always be in the background, observing, judging. You can't feel the way we do. The way we do live.